Support this podcast via our Patreon and get more writerly goodness. Visit patreon.com/nanocast to join up.
Welcome to NaNoWriMo Every Month. My name is J. Daniel Sawyer. I'm the author of some 20 books, 34 short stories, and numerous articles and other things, and I am your guide on this journey to use NaNoWriMo to level up to professional output levels. Welcome to The Questions, Episode 102. Today, JR asks, do you have any checklist you use before you decide a book is ready to be released to the public? I find that when I've been with a project too long, I lose my objectivity, so I miss a lot of stupid mistakes. How do you avoid doing the same thing? Well, the honest answer, JR, is I don't. I have occasionally caught some very stupid mistakes in books that have been released, and I'll give you a very recent example. My book, Blood and Weeds, which released in April, went through the normal beta process, and it was a good, clean manuscript. The betas caught a lot of continuity errors. It was very, very useful, and one of my betas caught a premise error that required a little bit of rewrites, which is unusual for me, but I was very glad she did. It got out, it got released, it sold some books, and I started getting emails. And I started getting emails saying, there's some mastering errors in the ebook. I keep getting jogged back a chapter. And I got these emails from about 5 or 6 people, which is not good. If you get an email from one person, they've got a problem with their e-reader. If you get an email from 2 people, you've made a mistake. And if you get an email from 5 people, you've really screwed up. And so I opened up the EPUB file. And wouldn't you know it, I had somehow, in the process of mastering the ebook, duplicated 3 chapters. At different points in the book, I just had chapter 3, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 8, chapter 8, chapter 9. And so anyone reading through would have the experience of going forward and getting jumped back a chapter. I didn't get any bad reviews from this, and I'm so glad that my readers are understanding folk who are just willing to assume that their e-readers are what screwed up, because it wasn't them, it was me. And it was screwed up on all platforms, because it was the root EPUB file I had somehow managed to make this mistake on and never caught it, because the EPUB was the final point, and neither me nor my business partner caught it when we looked over it before we let it go. Going back and looking for it, I found them immediately. So I cleaned it up and I sent it out. But mistakes will always get through. Sometimes they're little ones, sometimes they're big ones. That one was fairly embarrassing. That said, my process does catch most mistakes. The process is like so. The manuscript goes out to the betas, comes back, I integrate the comments, then I go through and decide which ones to accept, which ones to ignore, make all the corrections I can. Then the book gets printed out, and my publisher goes over it with a red pen for anything that anybody missed. Then those get put back in. Sometimes I'll go over it as well at that stage if it's been long enough, or I'm feeling insecure. Those changes get put back in, and the book is done. It's considered locked. At that point, I write my author's note, because I grew up reading Piers Anthony books, and the author's notes were frequently the most entertaining parts of the books, and I loved the books. So I've always been a big believer in a good author's note. So I'll write the author's note, and then the manuscript goes to the paperback layout department, which is the desk across the office. And my business partner lays out the paperbacks. I worry about the ebooks. I put the master ebook file together, and then I create platform-specific versions, which have got a linked also by page in the back, which has links to all my other books on that platform. And it's got a sample in the back for either the next book in the series or another book that a reader who likes this book might like. And there's a link at the end of that sample to go buy the book on whatever platform that this particular book was sold on. So those are all platform-specific links. They get done up on the platform-specific books. I do one for Smashwords, one for Kobo, one for Kindle, and then I do one without links for Draft2Digital and the other aggregators I use. When that's done, if it hasn't been done before that point, the cover art gets made and stuck in. Usually the cover art is done beforehand. Once the cover art's in and the ebook is all together, it's got all the things in it, which includes the copyright page has been checked and is correct for the book. The summary page in the front of the book is correct, or the teaser page. The also buys, everything like that. Everything's down the line. The book is ready to go, and I have to write the ad copy for the book. So I write the ad copy for the book, and I upload it. And we're working to get this so that we can drop multi-formats on the same day. But then it's usually a few weeks later, the paperback is ready, we've gone through the proof. We used to have physical proofs shipped in. Now we only do that if it's a new series and we're trying a new cover design, or if it's a new size of book that we haven't laid out before. Otherwise, we just do digital proofs because it's faster and cheaper. And the things that we would need to check in a physical proof, we don't need to check anymore for that series or size. The layout gets uploaded, we do the proofs, we make sure it's all good, and then that goes live. When each format is live, we publish an announcement on the blog, we publish a newsletter, we publish an announcement on Facebook and Twitter, and that sort of thing. And we're currently building out a marketing process, so I don't have a checklist for that yet, but there's going to be a rather significant addendum to this process once we get the marketing process all built out and done up properly. And when I do that, I will definitely share that with you guys, because it'll probably be useful to all of you as well, particularly to those of you who have 5-10 books under your belt, and you're to the point where marketing that actually makes some sense instead of just being a way to waste time. And then after that, in my case, because I've got podcasts, I will put sample chapters in the appropriate podcast feeds and run promos on the podcasts for the book that's just released when I have time to produce them. So by the end of this, I've got the book in front of the regular readers 5 or 6 times for every release without barraging them and making them feel like they're being oversaturated and yelled at. But that's the basic process. Each one of those items I talked about is an item on a checklist, and we go through and check them off, and by doing it that way, it's very rare that major mistakes slip through. It still happens. Another great one was that for a long time, and I think you can still see it on Amazon, even though I think we've changed the book now, or it's just about to be changed. We had a major misspelling in one of the pull quotes. I think it was on the cover of Suave Rob's Double X Daring Do, but only on the paperback cover. And that was another embarrassing one. They happen from time to time. There's nothing you can do about it other than fixing them and going forward, but getting that checklist in place really does help cut them down. Yeah, I guess that answers the question. I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the question. And by the way, speaking of questions, this is the end of the recording block. I need more questions. Please send more questions or this podcast will die. Or have to change format, and I really don't know what direction I would go. Please send questions. This is the end of the block. If you want more NanoCast, you need more questions. Also, if you're really enjoying the cast and want to send questions, then please do consider joining the Patreon. We got 6 of you are wonderfully supporting us, and we really appreciate it, but some more would be really nice. So please think about it, or drop a tip in the tip jar, or go buy some of my books. I'm starting to spin off books from this podcast now, and if you don't want to get them free as part of your Patreon subscription, hop on over to Amazon or Smashwords or wherever it is and pick up a copy for yourself, because I am going into more depth in those than I am in these episodes. So even though I'm covering some of the same territory, I'm basically using this podcast as a development bed to get ideas for nonfiction books. And I go into more depth on those than I do in any of these episodes. So while it's true that I'm kind of using some of these episodes as development beds for ideas for nonfiction books or booklets or articles, I am using them as jumping off points rather than simply transcribing them. So there's a lot more value there to be had. Currently, Business 101 is the only one out in the wild. Go check that out. It turned into a nifty little book. It's called The Everyday Novelist, Business 101. And then coming out in another couple of months is the next book in the series, which is In 30 Days, which covers those initial 30 days of a NaNoWriMo again, but in some greater depth, owing largely to all the wonderful questions you guys have sent in over the last half year. Can you believe we've been doing this for half a year yet? It's fantastic! Please send in more questions and support the cast however you can. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are fantastic, and with any luck, I'll see you tomorrow. NaNoWriMo Every Month is written and presented by J. Daniel Sawyer and produced by Artistic Whispers Productions. Visit our website at NaNoWriMoEveryMonth.com and leave a tip in the tip jar or join the Patreon to support this podcast. NaNoWriMo Every Month is copyright 2016 by J. Daniel Sawyer and Artistic Whispers Productions and is released under a Creative Commons Non-Commercial Attribution No Derivatives license.